Hello and welcome to Navigating. This is our first video episode of this series. Vedant, are you
Yeah,
excited?
I am. We are doing a video episode after a long time. I think the last time we did was when you had gone to the India-New Zealand match and
Yeah.
how you had been caught by almost been caught by the police.
They say everyone is having a podcast these days. Turns out it's not that easy to have a podcast these days because you have to do the editing part, which
Yeah.
is quite, boring, and I don't get that much time. But still, Ankur Warikoo said, show your face and people will trust you. So see our trusting faces
Or you
and
could you could just use AI like Trump or anybody else, literally. A
yeah,
lot of creators use AI instead
yeah.
of being in their videos themselves.
And also, we should talk about that in some episodes. That how I think that's a disservice to the fans. But anyways,
Yeah.
so what is happening? As you know, this podcast is, as I call it, Convocast. But it's more about how media and information systems, ecosystems created by us shape our lives. So this week a lot has happened, and we usually talk about a subject. We take a subject and try to give our opinion. The last one was quite good. I think it was about disputes between the locals and how the immigrants should actually speak their language. So that's quite interesting. You can look at or listen to that on Spotify.
I think the
uh,
last two episodes, one hasn't come
yeah,
out yet, but the
yeah,
last two episodes were good.
yeah, according to us. So there's a bias, but still.
Yeah.
um So, well, what are you up to? I think you finished Schitt's Creek,
Yeah,
and you binge
last
watched it.
last night.
And how much time did you take to watch the entire? How many seasons actually are there for Schitt's Creek?
Six seasons.
6 seasons in how many
So
weeks? I
actually,
don't
I
remember.
I didn't binge watch it, and I'll tell you the reason why. Because the series which I watched before this was Ted Lasso, and from the first episode, I got so hooked that I finished that entire series in like 3 or 4 days. There were three seasons, but after finishing it in such a short span of time, I took a long time to process it. That was like inversely proportional. So before starting Schitt's Creek, I thought to myself that I'll not repeat that mistake again and I'll take my sweet ample time with it. So I think I finished Schitt's Creek in about a month, even though it's not that big of a series, but I consciously made that decision so that I don't have to go through what I went through after Ted Lasso again. So yeah, it took around a month for 6 seasons.
I uh, I have a question for that, but I'm just I'm a bit nervous here. We are trying Riverside for the first time,
Yeah.
and unlike Zoom, it doesn't tell you that it's recording. It's showing that it's recording, but I don't know. I mean, we will have the best conversation in the world, and we don't get the file. That's the possibility. But anyways, so I always find a bit like you asked me once that do you feel emotional when you finish a series, and I said that not quite, but I think maybe I lied for not showcasing my emotional side. But when I binge watch a series,
Okay.
after the last episode, it kind of stays with me. That happened with me with Dark, and I was like listening to the theme music for the next week, and I was looking at the characters, looking at explaining how it ended and stuff because it was kind of staying with me.
Yeah,
So, like, how does that affect you? Like binge watching, you finished it in a month. Does that affect you in some
it
way?
does. It's not just about binge watching. I think any series, no matter how long I take, or even if I'm rewatching something, it does affect me. And I think it may sound very immature or a very childish reason, but I, I just, I just cannot digest the fact that I am not going to know what's going on with in the lives of these fictional characters anymore. Like, I don't know if this would be a spoiler, but with Schitt's Creek, in the final episode, they show that, uh, like, I think John's hotel chain is going to be, they get the investment from someone, so they move to California. Moira gets an acting job on her previous serial. Alexis is going to start her own PR firm. David is going to stay with his husband. So, like, fine, I know that they are going to what the decision they make, but I also want to know, did it work out? Like, did they go
Yeah.
bankrupt again? Did they have to move back here? After going to California, did they actually come back to visit David in a small town because they went back to their rich ways again, where they do not care about the family or anything like that? So that kind of stuff affects me, that I'm not going to know what's going on with these people anymore. So that's maybe one of the reasons why I do find it tough to move on from a series or a movie.
And I think this curiosity leads to a lot of spin-offs, but those are
Yeah,
rarely successful because I think it's that 5 minute thought that we want. Okay, what happened? Give me a summary and that's
yeah,
it. I would probably
yes,
not watch the entire
yeah,
series after that. And there are very specific and less number of series that have ended perfectly and have not tried to milk this like
yeah.
nostalgia feeling and yeah. Um, all right. What else? What else happened? Yeah, Nepal happened, man. I mean, this was big news. And
Yeah.
instead of actually going with the politics and stuff, I was curious because when I heard about this, media was covering it like, okay, Gen Z of Nepal has, they have done protests and they are being violent because social media is banned. Now it's very disingenuous if you phrase it that way, because what you're saying is, okay, these young generations only want social media for wasting their time and they will not stand up for anything, but when social media is taken away they'll go to the street. So this is kind of the phrasing which I think is dishonest, because uh, the government banned social media as a lot of youth was sharing criticism on social media and they didn't want that. And the main theme was that, okay, the youth of Nepal is struggling, unemployment and stuff, whereas the kids of ministers, they are enjoying their life in foreign land and they are going to expensive universities and buying expensive clothing. So some of the examples that I saw was, they took a video from a minister's daughter and then gave how much her outfit actually cost, and how it is like so expensive that the average Nepali, they can't even afford it. So that's the narrative basically, and that got me thinking, like, social media has kind of become such an integral part now that taking away almost feels as if it's some kind of a right that is taken away. And it could be that, and more than social media, it could be the voice that is taken away, because that's the medium where common people like us have a voice. We can't go to the TV studios, we can't make a movie, we can't like shoot a documentary, or even if we
Yeah.
do all of that, the only place that content is going to go is social media. So do you think that it's now become almost as a right of people in a good way, like leave out the other things right now, just in this context about how political opinion and political speech is available and present on social media, whereas in mainstream, or at least in nations where the mainstream media is not a platform for these voices, social media is where that is available.
Yeah, I think there is a saying, or people say that a lot, that earlier the three basic needs were food, shelter, and clothing, but now we have to add phones or internet or social media. Like, there are four basic needs now. And it is true somewhat, because social media has become such a big part of our lives that we have, I don't know, but humans have developed that attachment to social media, that if you suddenly take it away, I think some people would actually go insane. They would not know what to do with their lives, because I am like, every a lot of the news that I get is from Twitter. Like, I don't read the newspaper, like the print newspaper, every day. It's mainly if I go online and search about what's going on today, or if I see something on Twitter, then I go and read upon it. So social media has become an important part for sharing information. But again, what happened with Nepal, there was one issue that I had with the media specifically, is that a lot of the foreign media were, and I, first of all, I actually read about this Nepal incident on Google. I was reading what's the news, and I read a couple of foreign media's articles on it that the youth of Nepal have started protesting against the government because they banned social media. That was the
Yeah.
main narrative that they were leading with. So the first thought that came into my mind was like, have the youth actually gone so crazy that they cannot live
Yeah,
without social
exactly.
media or
Yeah.
something?
Yeah.
But after I went on Twitter and I searched about it, I saw a lot of people posting that the reason why social media was banned was because the youth were actually like the youth were not protesting because social media was banned. The reason was a culmination of a lot of other factors. Like, as you
Yes.
mentioned, they were not happy with how the kids of politicians were living with their lives, like nepotism, and they were actually protesting against that, the corruption that's going on in there, and also this nepotism. And social media ban was a one part of it. It was not the entire reason. But again, that's how social media can also be dangerous in this way, because it shapes your opinion completely. And if I had not gone and searched from or verified that information from multiple sources, I would have been of the opinion that, hey, these people are protesting because just because social media was banned by the government, which would not
Yeah.
have been right.
Yeah, there's a so the worst example of this is Myanmar, I think, where Facebook was used to spread so much hatred that riots ensued, and so yeah, I do take that because like if you fundamentally look at social media, I think it is a platform to share what you feel like. uh, but if you add two, three other things, such as, okay, political agenda, factless saying because I feel this is the right way to live and this is the correct way that the nation or our earth will survive, and then ignoring the facts, and then the third thing is the algorithm that kind of supports this, because the more
Yeah.
triggering you are saying something that is more triggering, or you're posting something that is more triggering, will get amplified more than like a nuanced thought. And that's the battle. And what you faced is something similar that I faced. Like I said that that is this being dishonest and disingenuous, whoever are doing this by saying that, okay, Nepali youth were actually protesting because social media was banned. So this line itself does not give the entire context, and social media lacks that a lot. And
Yep.
I think that fuels sometimes the wrong messaging can be fueled by this as well, and sometimes it can come to a like a good revolution that people are more aware about things that the paid media is not giving them. I don't
Yes.
have a I mean, the place for social media, if that particular nation's media is quite equipped to do that, mainstream media, then I don't think social media has a huge place in terms of spreading awareness on issues, because the mainstream media will do it. Like in US, even though US is very polarized and social media is still taking over, but there are still some of the other mainstream media companies that publish their criticism on TV. But in Nepal and in India, what happened is, or what is happening, is that our mainstream media is actually controlled by the state a lot, and that's why
Yes.
the information that slips through, it comes via social media. Now
Yes.
there are different sects of it, where some creators will give authentic news, will try to give context, some creators will use this to actually further their agenda, and then that becomes a bit of a chaos, and then that becomes information overload for people. And it's like, okay, what do I believe? Because even if you try and even if you say, okay, you know what, I'll take my time with this issue, I'm not going to trust on social media, but then you go out and then your friends talk about it, and then your family members talk about it, and you're like, you don't actually know a lot. But then if you argue, they will come up with five different examples that are serving their bias because they are into
Yep.
one bubble of social media, and some of the other people are in their bubble of social media, and that's what algorithm does. It
Yes, yes,
divides
yes.
people into their bubbles, and then it becomes a war between he said and she said more than the facts itself.
I think one more thing about social media that I sometimes feel like I have mixed opinions about it. At times, I feel that, it needs to be regulated to some extent, but then you cannot allow the
Yeah,
government to do that because
yeah, yeah,
then that just makes it like, then they'll try to censor whatever, as you said, they'll try to push their agenda, they'll try to limit the opposition. You cannot be sure of what the government will do if they are in charge of regulating social media. The ones who are actually in charge of doing that, like Elon Musk with Twitter or Mark Zuckerberg with Facebook or Instagram, as you said, they do not regulate it. Their main focus is on amplifying the triggering content or the engaging discourse that is sometimes so harmful for people. But again, they do not care as long as they get interactions and their app gets a lot of ads. So I have so many mixed opinions at times that, do we need regulation? But if we, like, if this is regulated, then is that taking away our freedom of speech to an extent? But at times I do feel that it needs to happen because the type of content I see or the type of hatred I see people spreading on social media and the exposure that, because we do not know who is using social media. Like kids in schools also use it. A lot of older people also use it. So we
yeah.
cannot possibly fathom that, maybe you and I seeing some type of content, we would be intellectual enough to know that, this is being done just for interactions. Some, like, some people post things just for bait, just as bait, so that they get a lot of comments, even if they are hating, but it doesn't matter to them. But a child or someone older cannot distinguish between that, right? So we do
Yeah.
not know how they will perceive it. They can take it as a fact. They will try to tell it to 10 other people, and that is how an opinion is formed or an agenda is spread, even unknowingly. So I really have mixed opinions when it comes to regulating social media, and I just don't know. Like, I want there to be some limit to it, but again, if that takes away our freedom of speech or our fundamental rights, then I do not want it. So I
Mm.
don't know if there is a right solution to this.
Uh, okay, so there was a cut in between, but we are back now. Okay,
Yeah.
so the solution for me is one is media literacy, that what we are trying to do here, and media literacy will come through education as well. I think students, I mean, at a very young age, we were not prepared because no one was prepared for social media. But I think this generation, I hope that schools bring in a subject where it's media literacy is kind of a co-curricular kind of subject, or at least a subject that is like, okay, monthly once we will have this period where a certain individual or an expert will tell students how you have to deal with social media once you are going to get exposed with it. And I think it should start now with fourth or fifth standard, because um, kids are receiving mobile phones from the age of, I think, 6 7 years old. I see a lot of parents giving phone to their kids because they don't want them to make noise.
Yeah.
So, and the thing is why it's also necessary, because a lot of creators actually use this psychological benefit where they will zoom in, zoom out the screen every 3 seconds. They will bring in colors in their videos that is going to make kids more addictive. So it's like the system is kind of rigged against us. And I always say this, that we believe in this system. We believe that, okay, I am the problem. I am someone who is addicted. This guy is someone who can't keep off their phones. But honestly, a huge part of it is coming from the system itself, which is rigged against us, because we don't know what the algorithm is, we don't know how it works, we don't know why I'm seeing these videos. And there was this study also, which was released, I think published on Neiman Labs, where they said that if you change the algorithm, how likely is misinformation going to reduce from social media? And it was a huge impact. Like even if you bring a mandatory source link, uh, uh, like a feature where before publishing a video, if your account is public, you have to give a source. That itself is going to reduce so much crap that goes on social media.
Yeah. And I think because even on Wikipedia, if you have to edit a page or publish some information, you have to attach or you have to cite a source to
Yeah,
it because there has to be
sources
some
have to be. Yeah.
validation to whatever you're saying. So I think, but if they introduce this to Instagram, then I think a lot of creators are gonna have to shut down their shops
Yeah,
because
exactly. And they won't do that. They won't do that. And
exactly.
that's why I think this media literacy is so important. That has to be done from the age of whenever they are exposed to mobile phones.
Yep.
Uh, Another thing happened. Uh, Anyways, this was the thing about, okay. We didn't dive too much into the politics because that's not what we do here. It's about information and media, how it shapes our lives. So, if you want to read about Nepal and what is happening, you can actually go and try to read some international unbiased news sources. I don't know what they are, but you have to kind of believe how they put forward this point. I already told you, if they start with, okay, social media is the thing that got people off the streets, then you know
Yeah.
that this source is probably dishonest with you. So change the source.
Yep.
Okay. Charlie Kirk was a big news, and I think we've already talked about this, and a lot of creators have talked about this. My concern was when I see something like this. To set up a context, basically, if you don't know who Charlie Kirk is or what happened, so Charlie Kirk was a political, what do we call, activist, and he was a
Trump's best
horrible,
friend.
horrible person. Yeah, I mean, if you look at his debates, if you look at his points, he was against abortion. He was for like having guns. Then he was complete conservative,
I think
Christian fundamentalist.
you could say he was against everything and everyone who wasn't a white American male.
Yeah, yeah.
He was against
Yeah, he
everything who
even
wasn't that.
tweeted. Yeah, he even tweeted about Zohran Mamdani, who is kind of an upcoming politician in USA, and he's a Muslim. So he also tweeted that, okay, on 9/11, 24 Muslims carried this attack, and hundreds of Americans died, and now they are taking over New York. So he was like kind of equating Zohran Mamdani just because he's a Muslim. So I mean, he was very horrible. He was against gay rights as well, of course. He was against transgender rights. And the thing is, again, before we move on, he was not just giving his opinion on internet like everyone else. He actually also had some kind of a movement where he went to colleges and debated college students, and really actually won every single debate, because those were college students who are
Yeah.
not really research oriented. They were just like really angry because he was saying all this stuff that is actually was triggering. It was amazingly triggering so much. So it's kind of whatever videos you will see of him, it's always some student is kind of ranting, and he was like, okay, you're being emotional, be factual and stuff, whereas he didn't have any facts. But what happened is, he was sitting in his booth in a college, 200 students surrounding him, and he was talking about how gun violence. He was talking about gun violence, and someone shot him dead. So the incident was actually a bit shocking, but also not shocking for me. But the thing why I was sad, and I think this we didn't communicate because we were texting, and
Yeah.
I think maybe I couldn't put my point forward in a better way, is that I was sad because his points were so ridiculous, but still someone was triggered so much that these points should have been easily dealt with, but we didn't have that power because sometimes these individuals just don't care about facts and just don't care about logic, don't care about inclusivity. but what they only care about is putting their point forward and triggering someone. And that is very saddening, that someone took this step and silenced him. And as we know, if you silence someone with violence, their kind of, their ideology takes a bigger influence, or is in spread more, because now people believe that, okay, he was saying something that was so unnerving that someone had to kill him, and then that is related, or made a relation with to the truth. And then I felt, it's so sad that if someone is having these opinions and using public platforms, we should have been more equipped to just let people know this is not true. And then that didn't happen, and then someone shot him. And if you fundamentally look at it, he was shot because of his opinions.
Yeah, I mean, see, the thing is that, as you said, he had it coming because he was just against each and every religion community that was not white or that was not American, that and as you said, even about the college debates, he used to go to the colleges where he had a lot of, students that were supporting the Republicans, or, they who were right leaning. So they always used to cheer in his favor. And when one college student is standing in front of such an older guy and all of the his fellow college students behind him are cheering for him, that tends to get you a lot more emotional than you would in a fair and square environment. So yeah, he was the kind of person who triggered everyone a lot. But again, that does not call for someone to assassinate him, because see, right now, maybe as I even told you on text, that we were essentially maybe saying the same thing, but we could not put forth it correctly. So I'll try to do that right now. Is that, as you said, that because some people did not agree with his different opinions. So right now, maybe you and I don't agree with his opinions, but we agree with someone like Zoran Mamdani, right? But that also means that someone doesn't agree with his opinions. And if tomorrow he gets shot because of it, then that is essentially what happened with Charlie Kirk as well. So assassinating someone or taking the law in your own hands is not the right way to go, and the person who did that should be punished for it. But when it comes down to feeling like, I'm just talking about feeling sad for this person not existing in this world. I'm not talking about how he died. I'm talking about the fact
Mm.
that he is just not in this world anymore. I personally did not feel sad. I'm not saying I felt happy or I was of the opinion that, hey, it's a good thing that someone assassinated him. No. I was just saying that I am not feeling sad that a person like this is not existing in this world anymore, because it probably made the world a better place. But that does not mean I endorse the way he died, or I'm saying that
Yeah.
all the people who are like him, like maybe Trump or maybe Netanyahu, they should go in the same way. Because as you said, there is a right way to deal with this stuff, and violence is maybe not the way, because now
Yeah.
people will probably if support him more, because they will feel, or maybe Trump will try to spread the agenda that, hey, see, this guy was right, and that is why they had to silence him with violence, because they could not do that with words. And as we always have heard, that a pen is mightier than a sword. And so this essentially means that if you cannot silence someone with words, you'll have to use guns. And even if that is what Kirk would have wanted, it's not something that is the
Yeah,
right
it's
way.
like, yeah, basically. So, okay, so how does that relate to us in India sitting here?
Yeah,
Because, okay, America is always in the center of the attention, and I was wondering the other day, like, okay, I actually don't know anything about what is happening in France, but I kind of know exactly what is happening in
yeah.
USA, because it's just that, they, like, everyone talks about them. So, but does that kind of relate to us, or how does that matter? Whatever happens there, how does that matter to us? So, I think that American polarization that has happened, or that we think is happening, is a lot because of the factors that we talked about social media, and how political figures actually use not just themselves but these content creators and political analysts or something to further their agenda. And what happens is then people like us don't actually know whether they are this guy's actual opinions, or is it because he's getting funded from someone and then that's why he's trying to say that. Because that happens a lot in India as well. And again, what Charlie Kirk actually said is kind of a very normal opinion in India right now. I mean,
Yeah.
it's extreme for the Western world, but for us, it's not that much. Because I mean, I think even my family, if I come out and say I am openly gay, it will take a lot of time for them to digest that. It's not going to be very easy. I don't know if it's legal to marry if you are gay in India. I think some of the states it is maybe. Transgender rights are also, yeah, in India. So whatever we talk about in USA, that is eventually going to happen in India. And
Yeah.
right now, I see that political discourse is kind of non-existent in India as well. If you look at some of the content creators in America, you can see that there are a lot of them on the left, there are a lot of them on the right, and there are plenty of platforms where both of them come together to debate on their points, which is
Yeah.
lacking in India. We never actually
Yeah.
publicly see someone with the opinions, religious opinion, for example. Okay, I want our society to work as the majority religion, and someone saying, okay, I am an atheist and I don't believe in religion, coming together and talking out. And I think that's so important because, as I said, social media forms these bubbles, and people in these bubbles need to come together and see that differences in opinion can be sorted out or can be presented in a calmer manner, and you don't need violence, or you don't need to feel as though I cannot defeat this person is so extreme that only way I can do it is voting for a party that is going to go extreme against this person. So, for example, what I'm saying is, if I come out and say, okay, I have these progressive views, I don't believe in religion, I don't believe in this Hindu Muslim issue, there are going to be people who are going to think he is a problem, because I know that there is a lot of religious issues going on. So, I need to elect a party that is not going to give someone like me even a bit of power to have that influence. And that's why
Yeah.
political discourse publicly on platforms is so important, that people need to know that these are our fellow citizens who are having these opinions because of maybe they are in this bubble, they are in that bubble, and who they are listening to. So I think, again, coming down to this, information matters so much, and whatever happened in Nepal, or talking about Charlie Kirk, it has happened because how we consume information these days, and how uh, some people use that information to influence us in ways that we don't even recognize that we are being influenced in that way. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think uh, the world is now like it has become a trend now that almost all of the governments of the major countries are right leaning, and it's not directly fascism yet, but people are rising up against that. It's happening in Indonesia, it happened in Nepal, in America with Charlie Kirk, and the common trend is that a lot of the political parties in charge of are right leaning or are conservatives in that way. But when you come or when you're talking about America and India right now, I wouldn't say that anybody or any politician in India currently from the ruling party is as extreme as what people in USA have been since Trump got
Yeah.
elected, right?
Yeah.
Because the kind of things they are saying and doing there is ridiculous. Like they are just are not caring about the opinion. Thankful, like I'm not saying thankfully because it's like just bare minimum, but at least in India, the issues are like it's got more to do with the stupidity of the government than their the agendas that they're trying to push right now. Like recently with Nitin Gadkari, it's happening that whole of the ethanol issue.
Yeah,
So
ethanol is
his like these are the things that he's being targeted for, the ethanol petrol issue or the highways. Nirmala Sitharaman is being targeted for, you know, taxing and the middle class. And the whole of BJP is maybe facing the criticism mainly on the thing about Hindu Muslim, and that they're trying to create a Hindu Rashtra, or maybe there's this emphasis on God or Ram Mandir and stuff like that. But what's happening in the USA with what Charlie Kirk or Donald Trump, they're straight up saying that or trying to influence the public that blacks are bad, we don't
yeah,
want immigrants, Indians shouldn't come to USA, LGBTQ or gay people are bad, abortion is bad. So they are like basic, they are not trying to understand the people, or they are trying to enrage the people there on basic fundamental issues, which is currently not the case in India, because our main problems are, the politicians are uh, not doing their jobs rightly, or they're not uh, trying to build good infrastructure for the people, or they are just saying some stupid shit in the media, or they believe in stupid shit that that's
yeah,
probably not true. That's our main concern. So I wouldn't say that uh, India is currently very much similar to USA in these terms, even if both of the parties in charge are right leaning. It could happen, as you said, because as something happens in the USA, eventually it comes to India. It could happen, but right now, I would say that the amount of stuff that Charlie Kirk or JD Vance or Donald Trump or any of the Republicans are currently trying to push in the USA is not on the same level as what is happening in India. Thankfully, I would say.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think we are done. Lastly, just that we have to somehow try to navigate through this information overload where we have
Yeah,
to kind of judge who is trying to give us their agenda and who is actually giving facts and make our own opinion. And I would like to promote this independent thought thing rather than the community thing. All right, yeah, we are done. Kind of started as a very good episode, kind of exhausting after discussing some
yeah,
of the
so much.
issues going on in the world that we have no control over. So, all right, yeah, done. Are we done? Our first episode, video episode, is done.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think, and I think the important part here is that we're not trying to dissect or discuss about the things that everyone has spoken about 100 times. Like, even with the Nepal issue,
yeah,
talking about why they're doing it, or why it should happen in India, or why all of that. I think the best part is that taking out the niche things that people don't usually talk about or care about, and then talk about how it actually impacts our life or could impact our life in the future. I think that's a really good thing that, you or you have started with this podcast, and we get to discuss it more. So yeah, I had a fun time doing our first video episode.
these are the kindest words he has said in our last 4 years of friendship, or 4 or 6 years of friendship. So
Yeah.
there's a time for a first,
Yes.
for everything. So,
Everything.
all right.
Yeah.
If you are interested in small, real 30-second, 1 minute videos where I share facts about how information affects us. Recently, you shared an article where ChatGPT was the reason of a boy committing suicide. So I went through that article. I thought it was a really heartwarming, or not heartwarming, heart touching, kind of horrible article that I read. So I'm making a reel on that. So some and trying to expose how AI is still in its baby phase. So yeah, you
Yeah.
can follow me on Instagram. I share fun facts. It's not as depressing as this podcast, I can assure you. And then you can follow me on YouTube as well, where I kind of dismantle these structures that are going behind the information ecosystem. So we discussed about social media and stuff, but on YouTube I kind of go more deeper and try to uh, analyze how it affects us exactly. So you can subscribe on that as well. And this video will of course be on YouTube now. First podcast episode video on YouTube. So hopefully you all like it. And until next time.